I have noticed something. I travel around the world a lot, as some of you have noticed, and I get a lot of questions. And this is one of the questions that I get. How do we motivate our people and improve engagement? Does anyone recognize this question? Just raise your hand. Do you recognize the question? How do we get people to be motivated in their jobs? Yes, I knew that. Very, very common question. What about this one? How do we scale agile principles and practices to large organizations? Anyone familiar with that question? Have you seen it around you? Yes, I knew it. And this one. How can we grow faster and change faster and be more agile? So on the one side, we want to be more productive. On the other side, we also want to be more innovative. How can we do that both? Does anyone recognize that question? Some hands. I knew it. Because you all have the same questions everywhere I go, always, about the same topics. So I wrote a blog post a few months ago. I said, I've had enough. I don't want to hear this question anymore. My God, it's always the same thing. Sort of tongue-in-cheek, of course. I think that what people are struggling with is that they are stuck in bad systems. They're good people when I talk with them individually. They have good ideas and they know what should be done, but they have a problem changing their organizations. The organizations are not so good. So good people stuck in bad organizations. And we try to teach people how to change their companies. I speak at conferences, I write books, I have workshops, and other people who are much smarter than I am do the same thing. But we seem to accomplish very little because the questions keep coming. How do we organization? For 6 years I've been hearing that question. And I can write 1,000 more books, but I'm sure in 1,000 years people would have the same question. So what do we do about that? Is anyone familiar with this phrase, people resist change? Yeah. I know what we should be doing, but they are not doing it. That's what I see all around me. I know how we should change, but they are not changing. They are resisting the change. Well, how many of you has resisted this change? Smartphones. Nobody. Nobody. How many of you have never played games before on your smartphones or tablets or Facebook or whatever, board games? Anyone? Nope. How many of you has resisted streaming media, audio, video, Netflix, Spotify, etc.? How many of you are not doing that, resisting? All right, so my proof is here. You are not resisting change, okay? People resisting change is nonsense. As I say, anyone who claims that people resist change is incognizant. That's the right word. English is a difficult language, right? So it's just people don't know how to get other people to change their behaviors. But it's doable. We've seen it with smartphones and all those other new technologies. So that's my first conclusion. Everyone wants agility at scale, but very few people know how to do it, how to achieve that change. So let's look at the second part. Second insight that I have. Here's an interesting little video.
Je peux me transformer comme je le veux. Regardez, hup, hup, hup.
And then he says,
Barbatruc.
Was this a familiar cartoon in Poland long ago? No? It was a large part of Europe when I was young, long time ago. Was very popular. Barba Papa was his name. Children's cartoon. And Barba Papa was awesome because he could change form at any time. Wow! He could sneak through the fence when they trapped him in a zoo and things like that. Wow, wasn't that great? Here's another example.
Hello, Quark.
Anyone recognize this? Star Trek, which one?
Deep Space Nine.
What was his name?
Odo.
Odo, right. Which species? Dominion. The Dominion was a nasty, nasty intergalactic species. They wanted to dominate the whole galaxy, basically. And they wanted everyone to admire them and look up to them. Otherwise, they would blast them from space. Sort of United States in space, sort of. And Odo was a security agent on Deep Space Nine, the space station, and he could change form, right? He could be a chair at one moment, and he could be a bottle of water the other moment, and he was always after Quark because he was smuggling things on the space station, which is a very good feature to have if you're a security agent, disguising yourself as a wardrobe. Another one. Terminator, which one? Second. What was the model number? T-1000, very good. What a scary creature that was. One moment he would drip from the ceiling, and another moment he would punch someone through the face with a fist of steel. That was ghastly scenes in that movie. And I find that interesting. I find that a good metaphor for organizations. Here's another one. Mystique, all right, from X-Men, all right. She gets paid $20 million for walking around naked. Isn't that strange? I get nothing when I do that, I can assure you that. Anyways, she's a as well, and we see them in lots of science fiction and fantasy stories because people find that interesting, that idea. I think that applies to businesses. It's a good metaphor. I think shapeshifters are the ultimate form of agility because they adapt to the context every day. And I think organizations have to be like shapeshifters, sometimes hard, sometimes soft, sometimes solid, liquid, sometimes organized, sometimes self-organized. It depends on what you need to do in the moment. Anyone seen this before? Holacracy? Fans or people familiar with holacracy in the room? Just a couple of hands. All right, maybe 10%. Okay. Well, this is a trendy topic for organizations, specifically software companies, software conferences. I hear it a lot, and it is 10% self-organized and 10% controlled. Because people organize in circles in holacracy, and they can choose which circles they want to belong to. But there is a constitution. The constitution of holacracy says that meetings have to be run with a certain format, a certain pattern. So some things are controlled. It's like 90% self-organization, 10% control. Here's another example: Spotify model. Very fashionable in Europe, particularly. Everyone wants to be like Spotify, and they have chapters and guilds and tribes, and again, a lot of self-organization as described in the document, but it's not 100%. There is some command and control there. For example, who do you think appoints the tribe lead? I think it's pretty sure that that's top management. It's like a department manager, the tribe lead. I don't think they're going to dot vote with the whole tribe about the person who is going to be the tribe lead, right? So again, there is some control always. And then SAFe, oh my God. The Scaled Agile Framework. Well, it has lots of ideas from many sources. There are smart people behind this framework, so lots of good ideas. I think it's about 50% control and 50% self-organization. But my problem with SAFe is that it is a static picture. All organizations should be changing all the time, right? But this is a static picture. It is as if you have a picture of Odo in the middle of a transformation, right? From being a dog to being a toilet, right? It's not a dog anymore, but it's also not a toilet yet. You can't play with it and you can't shit on it either. Right? What can you do with it? So another conclusion is to deal with organizational change, organizations have to be shapeshifters, in my opinion. I like that metaphor. It's very, very visual. People know what shapeshifters are if they read science fiction or fantasy, at least. Scaling the change. Interesting problem. quite some consequences. This gambling suggestion from the Tories in Britain had. If I have one bit of advice for you, do not follow any advice, gambling advice, in particularly from British Conservatives, right? It did not work out for them twice in a row. Anyways. The economists worldwide say that this was a bad decision, that it was not very smart, that there is a reason for being part of the European Union. It makes sense. But what I found interesting is that this phrase, we want to take back autonomy. Well, Britain decided by themselves, on their own, to leave the European Union. If you can do that without asking us, then I think you never lost autonomy. Did you? You still had it because you decided by yourself to go somewhere else. That's okay. That's okay. So I find that an important concept. So decisions are sometimes more efficient when we make them centrally. Like I fly a lot around the world, and I know that airline pilots appreciate it that there's just one law across the European continent, right? That they don't have to deal with different rules every 30 minutes when they fly across a country. There are reasons why you have rules centrally for some areas. And I give away control to other people all the time. I have a personal assistant who arranges my hotel rooms and flights and everything. For some reason, this is a rare exception to the rule, but usually my hotel is on the other side of the city. I think he probably thinks that I need the exercise or something, always walking around cities trying to find the venues. Anyways, I trust him that he has the best the best in mind for me. So I delegate that. I delegate all the flights and the accommodation. And I trust that people make better decisions than I do. I have no capacity to make all those decisions myself. I can't. There's a concept known as a decision fatigue. People don't want to make decisions about everything all the time. It makes us tired. At one moment we say, oh, just you decide. Right? So we do not want to make all those decisions ourselves. But I have the power to change any arrangement. I can take back control when I want. Like the British, they could take back control. I still have that autonomy. The problem is, with the British at least, number 4 is going to be a lot of work. Changing this arrangement from being in the EU versus being out of the EU. That is problematic in that particular case, but you want to have that be as simple as possible. For example, I talked with a German client half a year ago, and they said they signed contracts with suppliers for 10 years. Can you imagine that? A 10-year contract with a supplier. So imagine, like election time, a month before the contracts expired, all the suppliers were like the best ever, and oh wow, free dinners for everyone, etc. Until the contract was signed, and then they were back into non-cooperative mode for 11 years and or 9 years and 11 months. I mean. So don't do that. Don't sign such long contracts. I don't sign such contracts with my suppliers, preferably. I make sure that I can change easily. So we make these decisions, delegating or not, in very different topics. Purpose, for example. What is your team's purpose? Does anyone here have a team purpose? I'm just curious. Anyone have a goal that they can share with me for their team? Yes. Yeah? Okay, what is the goal of your team? To implement Agile?
Yeah, be more agile.
To be more agile. Okay, good enough. And was that a goal assigned to you by the manager, or did you come up with it yourself as a team?
I would say that both in that case.
Okay, both.
Our goal and his goal.
Right, okay, so you talked about it and you agreed together. Yeah, perfect. So sometimes such decisions are command and control. You get the instruction from management in some cases. In other cases, it is over there, it is self-organized. But in this case, as the lady says, it was in the middle. It was sort of a negotiation maybe, right? We both agree. It can be anywhere. There's no right or wrong. It depends on the context. What is the best place to make those decisions? And this we often call traditional over there, right? This is the traditional approach to decision making. Managers just make decisions, and command and control, and bureaucracy, top down, etc. And that is why some people assume that this is agile, moving it in that direction, self-organization, and people making their own decisions on Scrum teams, etc. And I have been at Scrum gatherings or agile conferences where people say that basically everything has to be self-organized. Everything, the whole organization is one big crowd of self-organizing, dot-voting hippies, is what I sometimes feel. And I love hippies, really. I am a hippie myself every now and then. But I don't think that the organization should be like that. I believe that agility is this, is being able to change easily, right? Sometimes you have make things in a controlled, make decisions in a controlled fashion. Other times you do it self-organized. It depends. Be a shapeshifter. And interestingly enough, over here we find hierarchy, control, centralization. Over here we find network, freedom, decentralization. Over here we find efficiency, specialization, exploitation, execution. And over here all the others. This is basically the same scale every time. If you want to be efficient in your organization, you know what needs to be done. It makes sense to have a plan because you know the environment, and then you specialize, you exploit that business opportunity, and you execute, get it done. Right? But the world does not work like that anymore in many cases. Things change too fast. That's why there is a movement in that direction. More often we need freedom, we need decentralization, people making their own decisions, explore new solutions, innovate more often. But not all the time, because then we would lose this part. That's crucial. Right? It is the balance that we need. An example, is this a big thing here in Poland? Food delivery services with Foodora, Deliveroo, Uber Eats. Have you seen them around? Not here yet? Yeah, just started. Okay, yeah, well, it's a smaller town. In Warsaw, probably it's a bigger phenomenon. In Brussels, since a year or two, where I live, yeah, you see them everywhere. It's amazing. In short amount of time, wow, booming. So how can they do that? How can they be so agile in that sense and grow so fast? Well, I'm sure they make decisions in different places. Like the platform and the dress code, that is controlled, right? That is controlled. That's green. This is what you need to wear. If you're a food delivery person on your bike, you wear green. You cannot say, well, today I am in a purple mood. No, it's not allowed. You wear green, because that's part of the branding, right? It's controlled, not self-organized. That makes sense. But other things, such as working hours and the route you take, it's all self-organized. It's freelancers, basically. You decide when you want to work. So management has decided what they delegate, what they leave to self-organization, and what they want to keep for themselves. And that means that for me, agility is about self-balance. Right? It is not about self-organization. Self-organization is just one option. It is like the T1000. Sometimes he's a liquid. Other times, solid as steel. It depends. What do you need to be? I often give the example of a sinking ship. We see some ships here. Hopefully they stay afloat. But when the ship is sinking, the captain takes charge, right? That is what he is taught to do. Right? And then he gives instructions. Right? And it's not like then everyone is going to vote about who is going to leave the ship first. No, the captain takes charge and leaves last, right? Unless you're in Italy right now. Why people change? So I was promoting my book, Managing for Happiness. I think there are some copies around here in the audience. That could be the case. Happy to sign them, hint, hint. But I was promoting that book last year in the US was a 7-week book tour, which was awesome. And I was in New York at one moment, sitting at Union Square, minding my own business, reading a book. And there were lots of people around me, lots of people from all over the world, different languages, body types, hairstyles, dress, etc. But all of them were playing Pokemon Go. It was ridiculous. It was insane. Here's a video. This was a video of Central Park, not of Union Square, but same phenomenon, basically. It was insane. I had never seen something like that before. Complete strangers, all hunting monsters. Oh my God, a Snorlax has appeared for just 10 minutes. Run! And then everyone was like, oh, catch it, catch it. I was flabbergasted. I sat on the bench in the park and I thought, okay, I am trying to convince other people to change their behaviors. And in 2 or 3 weeks, millions of people are playing a game. I'm an idiot. I clearly do not understand how this is done. And people complaining about, oh, everyone resists change. We're just stupid. We just don't understand how it is done. And traditional change programs are often like this, right? From next week, we will be agile. We will be doing Scrum. Thou shalt have no other frameworks before me. Thou shalt honor thy product owner and Scrum Master. And the one that I struggle with, thou shalt not kill thy customer. So that's a bit traditional. And I researched a bit a year ago. What are the reasons that traditional change programs always fail? And I found a lot of examples. Here's an interesting example, by the way. I like to run. I do a lot of running nowadays. 3 runs per week, 12 to 16 kilometers per run. Yes, thank you very much. Feel very healthy. But I researched what can make me a good runner, and this was one of the books that I found. The running formula, and it consisted of page after page of this. Oh my God. With phases and weeks and different types of runs, and then you do a long run on the Wednesday, and then a short run on the Thursday, and then 3 long runs of 1 kilometer, etc., etc. I was very demotivated when I read this, I can tell you. I think it's no surprise that the author is called Jack Daniels, because I needed a whiskey when I read that book. Seriously, my God, it was not motivating. The world's best running coach. As I see him running, amazing. And there was one particular problem with that book. It assumed that I would be doing all my runs on a track, running laps. Well, if there's one thing I hate, it is running laps on a track. I don't do that, right? In Brussels, I have a forest behind my house. I can run among the squirrels and the deer and the rabbits. That's much more fun. That I find motivating. So the whole book did not apply to me because I could not do those programs. I think that's very similar to how we approach management of software companies with all those frameworks that we give people. Like, here is SAFe, and here is Holacracy, and here's a Spotify model, making all kinds of assumptions about the other businesses. But there are other kinds of organizations. We have to do something different. Oh, here are all the reasons why change programs fail, basically. Lack of trust, wrong approach, no options in scenario planning, no compelling reasons offered, no celebrating of the short-term wins, etc., etc. Lot of problems. But people have no problems changing when they want to. We've seen that with streaming media and games and everything. And I like this book by Jane McConigal. She wrote Reality is Broken. Great title, by the way. She said, all the neurological and physiological systems that underlie happiness are fully activated by gameplay. Games make us happy. That's why we play games, right? I totally agree with that. And I read more books and I did a bit more research, and I came across the idea, the concept. What is it that people actually do in games? Well, I'll give you an example. This is what people do in games. We explore, we explore, we explore, we practice, we explore, we hang out with other people and talk a bit and chat a little bit, and then maybe at some point we form a team. That's nice. All right, we form a team. And then we discuss potential projects. What project shall we do? Someone has a project for us. All right, let's go. We have a Scrum project. There we go. And everything starts blowing up. Typical Scrum project. Everything starts blowing up. And we do one sprint after the other and another sprint and more features and discussions. And oops, there goes the Scrum Master, pity. And then we run to the customer and the customer says,
You're too late. No.
So typical,
No more
so
chaos.
typical.
Just you and me.
But the customer says,
I challenge you to Makora.
a new project. He challenges you for a new project. That's work. It's work that we do. And the interesting thing is, we pay them, the game designers, to give us projects and work to do. Isn't that amazing? They must be really smart. So game developers know better than anyone else how to inspire extreme effort and reward hard work. Is what Jane said in her book. I agree with that. So we have to learn from that. We cannot use any game designers because all the good ones are taken. They work in the games industry, duh. But we can learn from them, right? We can learn what they do in order to manipulate us to do those projects for them and then even pay them. And we call it gamification. It is applying game design elements to non-work, non-game, contexts to improve engagement, organizational productivity, learning, etc. And it has a positive effect on individuals. Some examples. This is a technique called don't break the chain. It is very successful, in particular with kids. If you want your small children to brush their teeth every day, just have a pile of stickers and tell them you can take a sticker and put it on your calendar once per day if you only when you brush your teeth, right? And then the idea is not to break the chain. So there we go. David broke the chain. Oh, naughty David. What did David do here? I don't know. Maybe he was sick or whatever. I don't know. I broke the chain again here. This is a typical technique. Even adults use it. Seinfeld is famous for saying this is how he taught himself discipline. He had a big calendar. He made a tick mark on every day, and he tried not to break the chain of writing comedy jokes. Every day he had to write. So he practiced don't break the chain. Gamified it for himself. That's just one example. I was at a conference last year in Serbia. I hear someone else with offer an example. It was interesting. He said, we have, this was a telco company in the Netherlands, and they wanted to incentivize people in the stores to give each other feedback. So they gamified it. And they created an app, and the app would give people points when they gave feedback to their colleagues. So 10 points to you for giving feedback to him about some customer interaction. And you said, well, I think next time you should say smile more or something like that. And then you get 10 points for saying that to your colleague. And then you give you get 5 points for giving feedback to him, etc. So that's how the app worked. And I sat in the audience, and I thought I had a bit of a problem with that. So I asked, okay, what is the reason for people to give each other feedback and earn points? Well, the speaker said the incentive is to be higher on the leaderboard, because there's a leaderboard of who got the most points. Yes, but what's the point of being high on the leaderboard? What's the point of getting the points? Well, to be the winner. I didn't get an answer, basically. I said, but what if I don't want to be on the leaderboard? What if I don't care about the points? Yeah, it doesn't work with everyone. Oh. And I asked, do the managers participate in the peer-to-peer feedback? No, he said, no, they just look at the statistics. And oh my God. I had a Picard moment then, Jean-Luc Picard moment. Yeah. So there's an interesting gamification model created by Yu-Kai Chu. He's a South Korean guy specialized in gamification. And it basically lists the 8 intrinsic motivators in a nice diagram with all the different techniques that he suggests. And there are more, I'm quite sure. And basically, that example I gave you is in this corner. The corner of accomplishment. Leaderboards, status points, achievement symbols, rewards, progress bars. This is all about giving people a sense of accomplishment. Being the one who gave the most feedback to colleagues. Well, some people are motivated by accomplishment, definitely. But indeed, it does not work for everyone. Some are just not wired that way. And it is very minimal part of the whole gamification model in Yu-Kai Chu's terms. And that is a mistake that many people make. When you talk about gamification, some people assume that you're talking about points. But that's not the case. That is one possible option that you have. I'll give you an example. 2 examples. Someone came to me and said, Jurgen, we have kudo cards in our company and we want people to give each other tokens of appreciation. Write a kudo card, a thank you note for each other. But they're not writing kudo cards. The only kudo card I received was the one that I wrote for myself. That's a bit sad. A sort of Mr. Bean effect. So I said, what can I do? The average is about 1 kudo card per month, per person. I want it to go up. I said, well, I read something in this book by Yu-Kai Chu called Magnetic Caps. That's this technique over here. He said, when you have, someone found out, he had a website, he asked people for their hobbies, and first he had a free text box, and he asked people to list their hobbies, and on average people gave 1 or 2 hobbies, 1.5 hobbies or something. Writing, speaking, all right, done, submit. And then he changed the form to make it 3 small text boxes. Give me 3 hobbies. All right, writing, speaking, traveling, submit. You see what happened? I just increased the response rate by 100%. Because on average, first he got 1.5 hobbies, and then he got 3 hobbies, because everyone filled out all 3 text boxes. By limiting the amount, you increase the response rate. So this is called a magnetic cap. You basically say, there is no more than this. And that motivates people. Because we like stuff of which there is not much available. Researchers have tested this. If you have 2 cookie jars and one is nearly empty and the other is nearly full, most people go for the empty cookie jar. Because those must be special. Probably the crowd knows something about those cookies that I don't know. They're probably better, so I'll go for that cookie, right? Except for the last one, that would be impolite, right? Unless you're Dutch, you take it. And you take a cookie from the other jar. Right. So, yeah, you can use that. That is scarcity. You use the fact that people are motivated by things of which there is not much available. Then we want it, because there is only a few. Right? Another example, someone said to me, it was at an event in Melbourne, Australia. Jurgen, we have a Friday afternoon event, a social gathering. Everyone says it's very important, but nobody shows up. The only ones who show up are the agile coaches because they have nothing to do. Right? Again, that's a bit sad. It's a bit sad. So I said, okay, well, what I would do is for the people who are there, those few people who are there at the Friday afternoon gathering, I would take a silly selfie, right, with each other. Find a place in the office and take a selfie that is as silly as possible, right? And then put it somewhere where everyone can see it. And from that moment, we make it a ritual. Every Friday afternoon, we take a silly selfie. And then people will see, first of all, that some people are always absent. Right? That's going to have a social effect on people. You want to be on one of those pictures, otherwise everyone sees that you're never at that gathering because you make it visible. Also, people are going to have suggestions. I think I have a better suggestion for the silly selfie. Right? but then I will have to be there to beat all the previous silly selfies. It becomes sort of a little contest. Who can be the silliest person in the office? That would be the social influence area. Brag buttons, social prods, it is clearly a social thing. Again, has nothing to do with giving people points or being on a leaderboard, right? Example from my own childhood years. It was 1979. I was 10 years old. You can do the calculation if you want. And I remember well, Barbara Streisand, A Woman in Love, was shrieking through the speakers and the radio at that time. And there was a challenge, the 4-day swimming challenge in my town, where schools sent their kids to swim 20 laps up and down for 4 evenings. Monday evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 20 laps. Well, the swimming pool was probably not that big, not Olympic size, but I was 10. It felt like it was Olympic size, right? Trust me on that. So it was a bit challenging. You were really tired after 20 laps up and down. So I did that, 79, 20, 20, 20, 20. I grabbed the medal and I went home. Next year, I participated again. 20 on Monday, 20 on Tuesday, 20 on Wednesday, and Thursday I was so tired. I was so tired. And the swimming pool had expanded in size somehow. I don't know how they did it, but it was twice as large for some reason. And I noticed nobody was paying any attention. They just trusted the kids to count their own laps, whatever. All the teachers, they were in the cafe drinking. And are they still swimming? Nobody drowning? All right, perfect. All right, have another drink. So we had to do our own counting. So at 16 laps, I stopped. I was so tired. So I got out of the swimming pool, screw them all. I got dressed and I grabbed the medal and I went home. And I felt so ashamed of myself with that medal in my backpack. I had cheated. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anyone. I kid you not. For a year, it bothered me that I had cheated, that I took a medal that I did not deserve. So I participated again in 81. I did 20 laps on Monday, 20 on Tuesday, 20 on Wednesday, 24 on Thursday. I'm serious. I finally felt that I earned not only the medal of that year, but also of the previous year. And still I felt ashamed. I didn't tell anyone until 20 years later. So it was so deep. You can see I am motivated by integrity. That's a personal thing, apparently. So some people say, Jurgen, extrinsic motivation doesn't work and you have to be very careful about giving people points and badges and medals and awards. I say, well, you have a point, but it can bring out the best in people. Because I would not have struggled with this and would not have done the extra 4 laps if it hadn't been for that medal that I got, or that I took myself, basically, right? It's basically the same as getting kids to take their own sticker and put it on their own calendar, right? And make them feel aware of when they are cheating or not. So it can bring out the best in people. So how does this apply to organizations? Well, how do you bring out the best in your people? Feel them, make them feel responsible and accountable, honorable, integrity, all those kinds of values. They come into play when you gamify things. When we play games with each other, we usually want to do the honorable thing. Or we agree that a little bit of cheating is allowed, but then still within boundaries. So where are the celebrations for achieving new skill levels? I don't think we need more frameworks. We need fireworks when we introduce new ideas in the company. Examples. I have a few examples for you. I asked some friends online, on Twitter and Facebook, do you have some examples of how you applied gamification? This is what Mario said. For every retrospective meeting, I spin a bottle to define which member of the team is going to participate next. Spinning a bottle. Very simple thing. Which part of the model is it? Anyone? Unpredictability, exactly. Yes, we like that. The human brain is wired to like things. As long as it's safe, we like things to be unpredictable. That's why the whole gambling industry is motivated, is focused on that area, right? We like things that are unpredictable. As long as it's not too scary, like Easter eggs in software packages. Oh, those are so much fun. Where are they? Where are they? Let's find them. Unpredictability. Another one. Nama said, in a project with 3 teams, we had one sprint board for all with a different card theme each sprint. Sometimes racing cards, superheroes, holiday symbols. Every sprint had a new theme. Which part of the model is that, do you think? Not accomplishment. Meaning, yeah, meaning. It's over here. It's this is the storytelling part. Creativity, being a hero, narratives, etc. Various techniques for bringing out creative storytelling in people, and the whole idea of what some people said. We give every release, we give it a movie title name. Someone said, because that's fun. Some releases are Dirty Harry, other releases are whatever, the Terminator maybe, I don't know. but those give people a sense of meaning. Last example. This is a funny one. I have introduced the cake limit in a number of teams I've been coaching. It's very simple. You have a work in progress column with a very high limit, 40. And when we have reached 40 items in the done column, then the only way to resolve this bottleneck is when the product owner buys us cake and congratulates us on a work well done. Which part of the model is that? It is definitely accomplishment, but also something else. Yes, indeed. Accomplishment is social influence. So we celebrate that we are achieving something, right? But we also nudge our product owner, which is a friendly nod. Hey, buy us cake, which is a social thing. We like that. Yeah. So these are simple examples of how you can gamify practices, agile practices, or whatever practices they are. I am exercising now. I'm so proud of myself. I'm exercising. This is a spreadsheet full of the squats and the jumping jacks and the bench presses and the push-ups, etc. I have gamified it for myself. I have to, because when I started running more and more, I got pain everywhere, basically. Pain in my knees, pain in my feet, etc. And the specialist said, yeah, duh, you have no muscles. Where are your muscles? Looked at my leg, there were no muscles, basically. So I had to do something about that. So developing some muscles so that the bones do not take all the hits. But I hate exercise. My God, I hate exercise so much. You cannot get me to a gym with 4 horses, really. I hate that. So I had to learn how to gamify it for me so that I would do my exercises because it is necessary. I have a purpose. I don't want to be in pain anymore when I do long distance runs, but I hate the exercise. So this is what I did. I started using a spreadsheet and typing every time I did a number of exercises, 10 push-ups or whatever it is. It goes in the spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. Give me a spreadsheet, I will fill it with numbers. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. I will just fill it. Calculate the average and standard deviation and whatnot. I love spreadsheets. When I was young at school, I'd never had those little booklets with lines. I always had grids. Serious. I like the grids better because you can do both writing and you can drawing and you could do anything with grids, and spreadsheets are basically grids. So I looked into the habit forming science, and the researchers seem to agree that this is a standard habit forming process. It starts with the trigger. And I thought, okay, how can I trigger myself to do exercises? And the experts say that the environment very much influences our behaviors. Most of the time, it is the environment triggering us. Right? Like yesterday, on the way here at the Lyon airport, I bought M&Ms. Why? Because the machine was standing there. And I couldn't resist. The environment triggered me to buy M&Ms. But you could use it to your advantage. As someone said, if you want to learn to play a guitar, place the guitar next to your favorite chair. Because when you go sit in your chair, you say, oh, my guitar. And then you pick it up and you play a little bit. Don't hide it in the closet, because that's too much of an effort to take it from the closet. So I thought, okay, what is the easiest environment for me? My living room. So here's my living room. It has a carpet. How convenient. I don't even have to roll out a yoga mat or whatever. So whenever I walk from my little office area to the kitchen to make coffee, I can sneak into the living room and do 10 push-ups or 20 bench dips or whatever. And it goes into the spreadsheet. That's nice. And then I earned my coffee. And it builds up over time. It works. Because I can now do 60 bicycle crunches, and I started with 20. So yeah, I'm building up. So I'm sorry? You burn your muscles. Well, they say, I research what are the best exercises to do for runners. I ignore all the others. I only do the ones that are important for runners. So that's the first part, triggers. And then the second part is the action. The experts told me in their books, make the action as small as you possibly can, so that it is easy. Because most important now is building up that habit cycle, not the action itself. The repeatability of the habit is more important. So someone wrote, when you want to start running, just put your shoes next to your bed and your running short, whatever, so that when you get up in the morning, the only thing you have to do is put on your shoes and your shorts and just take a walk around the house. That's it. You don't have to run. Just get out of the house at 7 or 8 in the morning and take a walk, because you need to get into that mindset of getting out. And then later, after a week or two, you could start the jogging thing. But for now, it is most important, smallest possible action, tiny habit, to just put on your shoes and leave the house at a certain time. So reduce the size of the action. And then last but not least, somehow this habit cycle needs to end with the reward, otherwise you're not going to start it again. And the reward can be either convenience or enjoyment, right? So convenience is, I use Uber usually as a taxi service because I find it convenient that they find me instead of me having to find the taxis, right? That's the only difference for me. And that I don't need to have cash with me, which is annoying in some parts of Europe. So I find it convenient. I use Spotify and Netflix because it's enjoyable, right? Much bigger catalog of choices, and actually also convenient, by the way. So every habit cycle has to end with convenience or enjoyment. What is convenient or enjoyable about 10 push-ups? Nothing. It's neither convenient nor enjoyable, I find. So that's where the gamification comes in. Then you have to add something to make it enjoyable. For me, it is calculating the average number of push-ups per month or something like that, because I enjoy that. You probably not. You are wired differently. Maybe you use don't break the chain or any other gamification technique. So trigger, action, reward. Use your environment to trick you, make it the smallest possible action, and then reward yourself. Because the real reward of me feeling healthier, that only came after half a year. But then the habit was already in place. So I had to add something else to keep the habit going before I achieved that intrinsic motivation of, wow, I feel so good, I need my next run. Which is tonight, by the way, I'll be running again. So where are the many small step rewards for small progress? We seem to be lacking that in many frameworks. It is often, you have to do all of this next week. But that doesn't work like that, right? it reminds me of some TV series that I saw of people being confronted with their biggest fears, right? Arachnophobia or something like that. Someone terrified of spiders. They don't give that person a spider in their hand in the first minute. The first phase is, there's a spider over there on the other side of the room. Oh my God, oh scary, scary. That's step one. And then step two is they can see it. And then you build it up from there. So don't make it a rule. Frameworks are full of rules. We have rules for everyone. But we do not operate according to rules. People operate according to their habits. Those are the rules in our head, right? That we don't even think about it anymore. Then it becomes an internal rule. That's the rule that we want. So we have to be more mindful of how we develop those habits. How many minutes do I still have? 'Cause
It's like 5 or 10.
5 or 10? All right, good. Because I have a recap, but I have a room for a little bit more. So, yeah, okay. Then I will show you this, because I want, this is fun. So I have a few examples of frameworks and how I think they're full of good ideas. They're really full of good ideas, but they, like me, they've always been bad at convincing people to change their behaviors, of actually making it work for other people. We are experts in our own domains. And the same applies to the guys of Sociocracy 3.0, for example. James Priest, I had dinner with him, awesome guy. And his Sociocracy is full of great suggestions. But this is in the introduction of Sociocracy. A driver can be understood in relation to the domain it defines and in relationship to other drivers. The driver that defines the domain is called the primary driver. That domain, the primary driver, is a superdriver of other drivers that arises as a consequence of people responding to it. The primary driver itself is subdriver. Only software developers can write something like this. My God. I said to James, remove it. Half of your readers will kill themselves in the introduction. Move it to the appendix. My God. This is not how you start changing people's behaviors with this kind of language, right? It is well meant. I understand that he wants to put it somewhere, but not in the introduction. Here's another example. Liquid organizations. Awesome stuff. I know the guys, Stelio, Jacopo from Italy. It has advanced stuff. Like people paying each other, basically. You get paid by your colleagues. That's advanced stuff for many organizations. And there are other advanced ideas in there. And then they say, they form a connected working whole only if you implement all of it in your governance. It doesn't work when you do only one thing. That's like your friend asking you for a day out and then saying, we can only have fun when we do wild water rafting and bungee jumping and skydiving all in one day. Otherwise it won't be fun. That's a bit too much for me, I can tell you. I would like smaller steps. Last example, Ken and Jeff, of course, the famous authors of Scrum. I saw Jeff just 2 weeks ago. He saw the same presentation. And they said at the last page of the Scrum Guide, the roles, artifacts, and rules of Scrum are immutable. Immutable. And although implementing only parts is possible, the result is not Scrum. Very clear. Because I understand it. Sometimes people only do stand-up meetings while sitting in a chair, and then they say, we're doing Scrum. And they say, no, you're not doing Scrum. You're just doing stand-ups while sitting in a chair, right? Don't confuse that. I understand. But for me, the glass is half full, not half empty. At least people got started. Maybe that is the best they can do at this moment, is get started with that practice. Next week, add the next one, right? Until you are really doing Scrum. Build it up over time. Like you start running by just putting on your shoes. Fine, as long as you run a marathon next year, right? You know you have a path to go. So is it pull or push? It is push when you push an entire framework onto people and say, this is everything you need to be doing next week. Like that book full of running diagrams that I got. Wow, that was push. But in Scrum, we prefer pull, right? Pull from the backlog. We pull features from the backlog. We should also pull improvements from an improvement backlog full of ideas. So methods and frameworks are great ideas, but in terrible packaging usually. We have to turn those big frameworks into small picture roadworks. So recap, everyone wants to be agile at scale, but nobody knows how to change. That's a big problem. I see it everywhere. We have to learn how to do better. Organizations need to be shapeshifters in order to deal with those changing goals. And agility means self-balanced, not self-organized. It is a bit of control and a bit of self-organization in many cases. We don't need more frameworks, we need fireworks, in my opinion. And don't make it a rule, make it a habit, because habits are our internal rules in our brains. That is how I think agility scales in large organizations, also small ones, I'm sure. And to summarize, I have it all here in this one slide, so you can ignore everything else and just take a picture of this. I wish you a very enjoyable conference, and I hand it back over to you. Thank you so much for listening.